be completed. I will never achieve this, but part of my mission is personal mission is to hopefully change that for as many as I can. But I'd like to do it for everybody.
It's not about being perfect. It's how can you solve those problems as fast as possible.
If it goes the way you planned and you're doing it right, then you can demonstrate that there is a value coming from that.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining today's podcast. I'm here with
Don Herman, president and founder of Future Focused HR, a local fractional HR provider.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit more.
Okay.
What does fractional mean? What does that entail?
Sure. Fractional, the easiest way to describe it is fractional is part-time, but I'm not an employee.
Sure.
I will contract with the client for a certain number of hours a month. We then engage for those hours. I'm part of the organization, helping them develop their strategies and things of that nature. But I'm not like a consultant who comes in for a project.
Sure.
I come in to make something happen a little more long-term.
Sure. So when you say that, does it mean like you're spending that time physically in the office with them, or like how do those hours kind of pan out? What does that look like? It
can be in the office. It can be done virtually.
Yeah.
I don't care which way.
Right.
And most of my clients prefer in the office, face-to-face. But with that said, I do have a couple of virtual clients, but they're not even in the state of Wisconsin.
Sure. Sure. So what would you say your main strength is in the HR world?
Mm-hmm.
Is it developing businesses? Is it helping with conflict? Like how do you determine if somebody's a client that's worth taking on?
Mm-hmm. Sure. I'll start with the answer to your question is yes. I don't do payroll. I don't do benefits.
Sure.
With that said, I will work with all of the others. My strength is the ability to see how and what a business needs with respect to its people strategies.
Sure.
And then help to align those so that we can drive business growth.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of, yes, growing businesses, but at the same time growing the workforce.
Right.
And seeing the financial benefit of the growth of the workforce, something a lot of people just haven't experienced.
Yeah. So let's bring it back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
When did you start this? What piqued your interest to get into this in the first place?
Okay.
And kind of tell me about your journey.
Sure. Well, I started this in 2009.
Okay.
And it wasn't on purpose. It was just something that happened. And at that time, fractional HR, no one knew what it was.
Right.
And so I essentially was an HR consultant, but I was doing what a fractional person does. Mm-hmm. So we did that for a while. A client hired me away. So we did that for 2 years, and that pretty much ended this past December. So I reached out to a number of folks, started my business back up, but rebranded it, gave it a new name that aligned more with what I really do.
Yeah.
And so that's how that all came about, and that's how I got to where I am now.
Yeah.
It makes more sense to describe, particularly because my primary market is small and mid-sized businesses. Mm-hmm. It makes more sense to offer my services to them on that fractional basis, because somebody with my experience is generally outside of their budget.
Right.
And, they may have somebody there that's doing it, but they're primarily doing administrative type work, maybe a little bit of tactical stuff, recruiting, for example. Mm-hmm. But they don't know how to take it to the next level. They don't know how to do things. So I will also come in as a mentor or a coach to those folks as well. So I don't replace anybody.
Sure. Why HR?
Good question. When I got out of the Army, I had been doing HR in the Army.
Yeah.
And working for an Army medical center. And my first job when I stepped out was HR.
Yeah.
And so I did that for a while. I had a taste of being an interim chief operating officer in the same company that I worked for as the HR guy. But I liked HR because the biggest thing is it can touch every aspect of the business.
Right.
And it has a reason for doing so just beyond I'm curious. It has a legitimate reason to go into all those things.
Right.
And through the years, I've had good mentors, good people that I worked with who taught me things to really show how HR can, in fact, drive business profitability, drive business growth.
Right.
The challenge has always been a lot of business leaders have never seen that. They see the administrative piece, the recruiting piece. But when you tell them, for example, I can add X number of dollars to your bottom line
Right.
through a people process, they get a little skeptical. Understandable. They've never seen it.
Right.
So that's part of the education process. But I enjoy that.
Yeah. So what would you say is something that you've used to be able to improve those those dollars, those sales, and what does that look like in a business?
Sure. I can give you two examples
Yeah.
that are pretty easy for anybody not in industry, not in HR to grab. One is businesses have turnover.
Yep.
And people leave. Well, a lot of times all they do is they say, we have X% turnover. We need to fix that. What they're not looking at is, what does that turnover cost?
Right.
And I had a client, we were about 2,000 employees, service industry. And when I did the math and showed them what their turnover was costing them, and they were almost at 200% turnover, that meant they were literally recruiting their company almost twice a year. I showed them what the cost of that turnover was from the standpoint of recruiting, the overtime that other people had to do to cover for that, and lost opportunity costs. It came out to almost $2 million a year.
Oh, wow.
So when you reduce that, you also will incrementally improve that. Now, we didn't eliminate all of it, and if we did, then we did something wrong. But we were able to bring that down, if I recall correctly, about 80%.
Wow.
To an 80% turnover, not 80% of 200.
Right.
And so we gave them back a pretty fair amount of money, and they could eventually see that because of their expenses and the new revenue coming in because they had the people to do it. The other was a manufacturing company. And manufacturing has this problem called waste and error. And this was a metal company, so they did metal machining.
Right.
And they did it with stainless steel, which is a little more expensive. And so they were also doing things for the medical industry and the aviation industry. So tolerance was zero. You could make no mistakes.
Right.
Well, they'd make a mistake and it went in the bin. That was waste. That was error. And there was a significant cost to that. So what I did, and I had another person as a subcontractor working with me at the time. We went in, we mapped out all their processes, everything that they did. We found where the shortfalls were. We found where the problems were, where the waste was. Nobody wanted to reuse a cutter, for example. They always had to use a brand new one. Those are expensive. What did we do with the waste metal? Well, we were almost taking it to the landfill, where they started selling it as scrap. But the workflow, changing things, how we configured the work, what was brought, how the work process or the work project was set up.
Right.
And we were able to give them I don't remember the exact number, but we were able to give them a pretty significant return on that, and reduce their cost of production.
Yeah.
And as a result, they made more money.
Yeah. So improving processes, proper training for employees. That's huge.
Oh, yes.
And like, especially with the turnover nowadays, I worked in retail for years. And
Yeah.
turnover is horrible.
Oh, yes.
But it costs way more to get rid of or an employee leaves than it does just to train them right. And treat them right. And I think that's really important that people need to look into that instead of just kind of saying, all right, well, they're not hitting the mark. Okay, well, figure out the why.
Exactly.
Why are they not hitting that mark? Because it's not always about, oh, I'm not hitting my numbers. See ya. It's hey, I noticed that you're struggling. How can I support you?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not even something that's at the place. Maybe it's something they're struggling with at home. Maybe their mom just died.
Yeah.
There's many different things. So like understanding people and meeting them where they're at. But then the other side of it is, how do you make the process as simple as possible? Whether that's, my side of things, and in marketing, it's, reliant on the customer,
Right.
Or the client or whatever like that. But on your side of things, it's, how do I improve it for the employee? So, it's a very similar concept of how do you make it as simple as possible to not screw up? There's going to be screw ups, and that's human nature. How do you improve? And so, I think that's really interesting. And like, there's such a connection in between the two things, and they can work hand in hand.
They can.
Yeah.
A couple of thoughts based on what you were just saying. It's kind of a tightrope that we in HR walk. And it's, you mentioned, taking care of the employee. I'll summarize that. And that's very, very important. But to be able to demonstrate that by taking care of the employee, you're giving this value back to the business, they then begin to understand. A lot of people managing the profit and loss of businesses look at training as, oh my gosh, it's a cost. We're spending all this money. That's the first thing that goes away when they have financial problems. The second thing that goes away is marketing. So,
Right.
Why? That's when they need them the most.
Right.
And but they're thinking in terms of cost as opposed to investment and getting a return.
Right.
So that's the big thing there. And then you mentioned, I'm going to call it root cause, because that's what I call it.
Yeah.
And when there's always a why, and there's a system in Six Sigma and in continuous improvement called the 5 whys. Think of a 2-year-old. Why?
Toddler leadership is kind of what it is. Yep.
And so you progress down into the why did this happen until they can't answer a why anymore. And that's generally your root cause.
Right.
And that's where you begin your work.
Right.
Everybody says they leave a business for more money. And what you oftentimes find out is that is not true. It's something else.
Usually the leadership.
Yeah. Leadership, lack of investment in them. They don't feel like they exist. They feel like they're just a body there. Nobody knows they're there.
Right.
And that's huge today. That's probably one of the bigger causes of turnover. They don't align with the values of the company. They don't align with the mission, or they don't even understand it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that comes back to, I heard something that Jeff Bezos said. He talked a lot about how stress is only done by something that you've put into your life. So a problem that you couldn't have, or that you didn't fix in the past. And so it's not about being perfect. It's how can you solve those problems as fast as possible to be able to continue, whether that's, just in life or business. It's figuring out the root cause. How do you fix that? And some problems aren't worth your time trying to fix, but there are those problems where you're like, okay, something really sucks in my life. How do I fix that? And there's always a truth to how to fix a problem. Some people just don't want to admit that there's a solid truth to it. And me personally, I'd rather break even for 7 years straight and then have my 8th year, really skyrocket, than have a bunch of money in my bank account, but have a business that's not doing so well because we have horrible culture and not caring about our customers. It's kind of the motto of like, if you build it, they will come. Right. And so reinvesting into your employees, reinvesting into your marketing, your HR, it all comes together, but it all starts at the top. Right. And that's something I learned a lot from, having a corporate boss and having all those kind of things is, if my boss empowers me, I want to make them look good, which will make me look good. Which improves sales, which means at the end of the day, Kyle gets a big bonus. Yes. And it's not that I'm doing it for that, but you also feel good when your boss is empowering you, when your leaders are empowering you. And I never want to have somebody in here who doesn't feel like they're valued. So I'm always going to try to figure out, how can I help my employees? Now, can't make everybody happy. There's always going to be a time where people are angry about something or something didn't go their way, but then it's okay to talk and have discourse about it in a respectful manner. Yes.
And you just said something that in my career I have learned is very key. You can't make everyone happy. Right. Some people seem to think that HR is the happy department. It's our job to make everyone happy. Well, you can't. Right. And I use a common example is, well, we're going to bring ice cream in for the workforce today, and everybody's going to get free ice cream. Well, what about the lactose intolerant? What about the people who don't like ice cream? And you keep going that direction. And so what have you done? You've not accomplished the mission, if you will, of making everybody happy, and you can't. That's an internal thing. Right. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's something that's just absolutely vital to be able to acknowledge that, and to say, I can't make everybody happy all the time, but asking your employees ideas on things. If there's something that I'm saying that you don't like, okay, well, tell me that. Maybe it's just the way I'm saying it. Maybe it's, tonality and how people say things is a huge impact on how somebody, feels. And it could be just, your inflection on a certain word in a sentence that turns somebody the wrong way.
Right.
And so empowering your employees to be able to talk to you and have that open line of communication. And it's not telling you what to do as a leader. It's, hey, this is how I feel. And I have the strong belief that as a business owner, as a leader, you support your staff. You don't say, oh, I'm at the top of the hill and you do what I say. It's quite honestly the opposite. How can I support you? How can I be that glue that holds you together? And you notice like there's not many companies that are bigger companies that work like that.
Right.
And it's really unfortunate. But then you look at those big companies or those bigger companies that are, and look at their culture and you're like, whoa. And it's not all sunshine and rainbows. But there are, you look at their numbers and their numbers are better. And they're more productive and they feel more valued. And my aunt and uncle own a meat business.
Can I get their address?
Right. They own a really nice meat business and they have really good employee retention. And like every Friday at 11 a.m., they close down for the week and they take their employees out for lunch. And and then after lunch, they get the rest of the day off. And yeah, are they hitting their full 40 hours? No, but they don't care because they're so productive during, the other 4 days of the week. And in the morning, on Friday, they just finish up everything they need to finish. And it's just, they have this culture and they know that they can talk to them and have that open line of communication.
You're right, and it's making going back to what we said earlier. It's causing the employee to feel like they're part of the team, that their voice is valued, and that voice is huge.
Right.
Some of the best suggestions and solutions I've had over my career came from talking to the people doing the job, not their boss sitting behind his desk all day long drinking coffee,
right?
But to the person that's getting their hands dirty doing the work. And I can't count how many times I have been told, even since I've been doing what I do now, that I was the first person that ever came and talked to them about how they did their job. No one in the company did.
Right.
And that's unfortunate. So
Yeah.
it's part of, it'll never be completed. I will never achieve this. But part of my mission is personal mission is to hopefully change that for as many as I can. But I'd like to do it for everybody, but that won't happen. So,
I hear
I'm
you.
not that good.
Oh, you're great.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my buddies was telling me he's actually writing a book. I can't share his name because it will give the book idea out.
Okay.
But, he talked about how he worked for this place, and his leaders were just very like office workers. They'd show up late. And it didn't set the best example. Anyways, he was one of their supervisors, and he would always check in with all the employees, just seeing how they're doing, understanding what motivates them, what encourages them. And that's something that those employees loved. And his boss asked him, so why are you never in your office? Why are you? And he said to his boss, is my work getting done?
Yeah.
And he said, well, yes. How's my employee retention? Oh, it's good. Okay, so then why does it matter? And he said, I'm not challenging you. I'm just giving you the truth about what's going on. And it was funny because after he left, employee retention, was horrible. But it showed an example to those leaders and hopefully made that impact that something needed to change.
Right. And that's the challenge is finding, well, it's more so the opportunity to demonstrate the effect of the change than it is to say we need to change something. You'll get a lot of lip service from just about any organization when you start talking about changing things. That's the way we've always done it is a pretty strong mantra. But when you begin to put change into place, you can. If it goes the way you planned and you're doing it right, then you can demonstrate that there is a value coming from that, and that it does benefit the business. And that's the way you need to talk to the leadership of the business. It benefits the business. You're also benefiting the employee, but they want to hear the business side. And that's where a lot of HR people tend to not be successful, is because they don't know how to make that step into this is how it benefits the business.
Right.
They're using terms such as it's the right thing to do. You know, we have to help the employee. We have to care for the employee. And all those are important. But leadership doesn't see that. They see the dollars and the cents. And
Right.
that's what you have to tell them. So,
Right. And I think the other thing too is like looking at change, you know, there's certain things that should change and there's certain things that shouldn't change because, you know, you look at it and businesses usually end up losing money every change, but you got to look at, okay, how can this change help us improve? Look at the long term instead of the short term. But, you know, you also look at it as, do you want to take that risk with that change? So I think evaluating and having people like yourself, you know, work with them to be able to evaluate if that change is worth making.
right. You know, one of the things it's very real, and it's also part of the challenge, is there's an acronym, and it's called VUCA, V-U-C-A.
Yeah.
And that stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous.
Sure.
And that describes the modern business environment.
Yeah.
Because all of those apply. And, you know, for example, everybody's screaming, I want clarity. Well, you can't get clarity in the modern world as often as you would like. So that's the ambiguity of it, for example. And demonstrating how to manage that, showing companies how to manage that, makes them much more competitive. And the angle, of course, that I use is I show them how to do that through their people, give their people the skills necessary to manage with that. You know, a finance guy might come in and show them how to do it with numbers, but I'll do it that way and also with the numbers.
Right.
And that really helps businesses a lot. Where I generally get pushback on that is, one, it's an acronym, and for some reason people don't like acronyms. and the other reason is that the word ambiguity, which is why I singled it out to begin with, because everybody is pushing for clarity, and you can't always be clear.
Right.
And I had a good boss years ago that he said, if you have 40% of the information, you can make a decision. That's a little risky for me. I'll go more closer to 60 or 70. But you know, he had worked for Jack Welch at GE, and that's the way Jack operated. So it's, that was a little challenging for me, but we made it work.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it kind of just relates back to the psychology aspect of, you know, how people's brains work. And talking to people is all different. Like I talk to you differently than I talk to, you know, somebody sitting across from me who's, you know, a realtor or, you know, whatever. Like everybody has different ways that they talk. And so kind of understanding that as a leader, or as a person in general, not everybody's always going to like the way somebody talks to them. So understanding what motivates people and what their why is for doing what they do.
Yeah. And the key there is, what's their why? You know, they need to know yours, but you need to be respectful and understanding of theirs to see if there's a way to meld it into
Right.
what you're trying to do.
Right.
And normally there is. I mean, there's always the abstract one, but, you know, normally there is. So.
Yeah. So one final question for you. What do you want your legacy to be?
I'll quote a recommendation or a testimonial that somebody gave me some years ago. And they said that Don is the kind of guy that you go to, and if you've got a question, he'll listen to you, he'll help you map it out, and together he'll work with you and you come up with a solution. And on the business side, that's the way I like to be remembered. My oldest son described on the personal side. When my dad told him one time that he said, "Your dad's quite the gentleman." And my son said, "No, Grandpa, my dad is a gentleman." And that's the two different values. But yeah, that's the way I look at that. And by the way, that last comment was made about 2 blocks from here. So, so yeah.
Good. Well, awesome. I really appreciate you coming on and just being able to talk.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This is fun. So,
yeah, a lot of fun. Yeah. And we should definitely do it again.
Absolutely. So, yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody, for watching today. Wonderful having him on here today. If you want to follow him, his LinkedIn profile
Yes.
will be down below. Do you have Facebook that people?
I do not. I have
Okay.
I have LinkedIn, and then I have my company website. So.
Perfect. So his company website as well as LinkedIn will be on there.